And good evening, everybody. It is December 20th of the year 2023. This is the WyoNation Roundup. I am your host for tonight, Mr. Chad Smith, with some breaking news that came today during the press conference for National Signing Day. So, of course, we talked about this on Monday, Brad and I, that signing day was today. And usually that is a day that is focused on the recruits. But we had some knowledge dropped on to us by new head coach Jaw Sawvel. And so we promised if there was any big stuff, we would try to hop on and give you guys an update to talk about it. So again, welcome all in. If you are on Twitter and would like to give your comments, head on over to our YouTube channel, which is the same handle at WyoNation. And there you can participate in the stream. There, our streaming software allows you to communicate directly with me while we're doing this stream. And we can show your comments up on the screen. So the big news today, of course, is that new head coach Jaw Sawvel announced that Aaron Bohl, the current linebackers coach and son of the retiring Craig Bohl, is going to be your new Wyoming Cowboys defensive coordinator, which is quite interesting. If you remember, if you catch our last show, Brad and I talked about candidates on both sides, mainly external. And the big reason why we thought that Aaron Bohl would probably have a pretty good shot defensively getting promoted to his new slot was because of the lineages and the people that Sawvel has worked in the past. There seems to be a lot more of them on the offensive side of the ball who are still active, whereas when you looked at the defensive side of the ball, most of the guys he worked with were of older age, older than him, and they have retired. A lot of them are retired. They're no longer in coaching. They're good coaches, but it seems that that side of the ball really dried up for him in terms of people that he's comfortable with. And so Aaron Bohl has been named the new Wyoming defensive coordinator. If you're not familiar with kind of his resume, let's go through it now. He is in his fourth season as a full-time head coach doing the linebackers. Previously, he had 3 years of experience as a grad assistant on the defensive side of the ball under his father. Playing career, not too long ago, he played for Morehead State, Minnesota, the Dragons. From 2013 to 2016, he was a captain and a starter on those teams. So he played linebacker. He's coaching linebacker. Other things, right? Under his tutelage, he's coached Wilson, Muma, and now Gibbs. So Wilson and Muma, of course, are in the NFL already. And Gibbs is probably going to get drafted and have a good shot. So under his tutelage, he's coached 3 high-caliber Mountain West linebackers. 2 of them are the NFL, and Gibbs has an excellent shot of making it to the NFL as well. So I think we could all agree that he's done a great job as a linebackers coach for the Wyoming Cowboys. Other things that he does, I think that are important to note, is his recruiting areas. He's the main recruiter for the Cowboys in the state of Nebraska, which Wyoming has hit, and they did so today, getting a couple guys out of there, and then also the Kansas City metro area. So again, it keeps him, gives him more responsibility there, keeps that pipeline going. Even though Craig Bohl is gone, I think most people, the high school coaches in Nebraska, are going to know Aaron Bohl because he's been the main recruiter for that area. So it keeps that, I guess, synergy going there. Keeps a familiar face coming in brown and gold and a polo to all those high schools. And so it should keep the steady flow of talent from Nebraska going on. Other things I have, that's about it, I think, in terms of looking at his resume. But obviously, Jaw Sawvel must have been impressed with him over these past few years to make this move. And we told you it was a possibility, and I could see some risk, but you never know. And here we go. Yeah, Meat Hook is in. Welcome back, Meat Hook. Head coach in waiting. Now, I don't know about in waiting, but the first thing, Meat Hook, I did think about is, yeah, you never know. I mean, Sawvel's not a super young guy. He's not super old either, but that's the first thing I thought is, wow, maybe Aaron Bohl, if things go well for Sawvel and the stability is there and the staff does well, you could see Aaron Bohl as a future Wyoming Cowboys head coach. It's totally possible. But let's not, get into that right now. A long way to go before we get to that. We'll get into some of the reasons why. But obviously, Sawvel, I think he has good judgment on the defensive side of the ball. This is going to keep continuity there on the defensive side of the ball. And I guess the only thing that really you have to question about coaching-wise, and we don't know because he's never done it before, is how is he going to call a game, right? Game planning, I'm not going to be concerned about because, right, the Wyoming staff, they all did that. He's going to have Sawvel still going to be heavily involved in game planning. He got other experienced guys on the staff, like the defensive line coach. It's just how is he going to call a game? And that's going to be the biggest jump. We don't know because he's never done it. So that's where the risk is, along with his age. I can't find his exact date of birth. I try to go back to the Morehead State, Minnesota rosters, but they didn't have him listed. From what research I can find, Aaron Bohl is either 28 or 29 years old right now. and that makes him one of the youngest coordinators in the country. I was looking at a list, try to do some research of coordinators, and this is what I came up with. And there's actually one. So West Florida has a head coach who's 29 years old. Again, I don't know what West Florida is, probably like a Division II school, I'm guessing. But in terms of Division 1A football, these are the only two I could find. It looks like Texas State has an offensive coordinator who's 28 years old. And then I think it was Troy State has a co-defensive coordinator who's 28. So Aaron Bohl instantly becomes one of the youngest coordinators in the entire country. And that is where the question marks are going to come. But again, right, you don't know if somebody can do a job until you give them the opportunity to do it, right? And so like all walks of life in your profession, right, people value experience, but sometimes you got to give somebody their first job. Now, I'll entertain the argument that 28 and 29 is probably too low for a Division I coordinator, but you don't know until he tries. So we'll see. So if Jaw Sawvel trusts him to run his defense, then I'll trust it. We'll give it a shot. We'll see what happens. So that's what I have to say about that with Aaron Bohl. Just trying to think if there's anything else. We'll have to see, right? So spring football will be really interesting to see how he's available to the media, how he talks, what we hear about from them and the staff about how this is all going to work. And then so now the shuffling is going to begin, right? So Sawvel went from DC to head coach. Bohl's going to go from linebackers coach to DC. I'm going to guess that Bohl will still keep coaching the linebackers because you have to do that with the stupid college football rules where you only can have so many coaches. So Sawvel was a DC and a safeties coach. So now with him becoming a head coach, that's going to leave a safeties spot open, I would imagine. So I think it's very important for them to fill that spot with an experienced coach. Maybe one who's called a defense in the past, before even, just to have more of that ability on staff to help guide Aaron Bohl through what could be, it could be challenging. There's going to be some bumps in the road. Other things that I've heard today is people saying, well, he's just getting promoted because he's Craig Bohl's son. And I don't think Jaw Sawvel would do that because he wouldn't want to. First of all, he can't be beholden to Craig Bohl anymore. He's got to run his own program. And so if he trusts Aaron Bohl, then I'll trust that decision and we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a great opportunity for him to really make a mark as a young coach. And so that was kind of the major news of the day. Other news I guess we could talk about quickly here before I get off is the spring football game, which I never thought about this, is going to be played in Cheyenne this year due to the remodeling of the West Stands in Laramie. And I never thought of that, right? Not that the stadium gets full or anything, but it's going to keep them on track. So just if you're in Southeast Wyoming, be looking out for that the spring football game will be being played in Cheyenne, which will be fun for some people maybe who don't normally get to see Wyoming football to get to see a spring game. And the other news, I guess, was on the other side of the ball, the offensive coordinator, which we also talked about. Sounds like he's talked to a few guys already via telephone. But in the press conference today, he said that he really wants to get these guys on campus, and he can't do that until January, right? So this week is the holidays. Next week, Wyoming's playing in their bowl game. So he said, I can't get guys on campus for in-person interviews until, the first week of January. And then soon after that, he said there'll be an announcement on that side of the ball. And so I would keep an eye on the four guys we talked about. So if you haven't watched that one yet, go watch the first half of the Monday show, where we talk about the four guys that Sawvel has worked with the most, who are probably, I'm going to bet that there's a better than 50% chance that one of those four guys we talked about will be the new Wyoming offensive coordinator. So there we go. So just wanted to hop on here really quick, as we promised, to talk about any news that comes up. But Aaron Bohl is your new Wyoming defensive coordinator. We will see how that shakes out in the coming weeks and months. But until no more news breaks, everybody stay safe out there. Have a great holiday season. Have a great Christmas. And we'll be back soon on WyoNation as the news of the Jaw Sawvel era of football keeps on rolling along. So until then, I'm Chad Smith saying we'll catch you next time.